In this video, I'm gonna give you the ultimate #1 strategy to hitting 8 figures. That's 10 million, dumb. The ultimate salesperson training. Usually, I charge $7,000 for this, but today you can get it totally free by clicking the link below. Be sure to grab it today. This is the ultimate training to make you $10 million. Don't be broke, be rich. Click the link below. So that was my sleazy salesperson impression. I'm terrible at doing bits like this, but hopefully it stunk. Hopefully it was cringy, because that's kind of the whole idea. This is not what we want to do. Nobody here wants to be perceived as a sleazy salesperson, because we know it feels gross to you and to the person on the other side of the screen. That's why it's so important to make sure that we're selling from a place of authenticity and integrity. And that's exactly what we're going to learn how to do today. No weirdness, no spam, no sleaziness.
Usually, I charge $7,000 for this.
Just pure, authentic conversations. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we need to sort out our fears, right? If we have these fears of being a sleazy salesperson or a sales, like just spammy and gross, we need to sort these fears out. You have a spectrum. And in the one spectrum, there's pushy. To the very far end, there's shy. And so a valid fear would be, I don't want to be some kind of asshole who pressures people into buying things they don't need. That's a valid fear. And then on the other side, there's, I'm not really good at sales and the whole thing is very uncomfortable to me. So I'm going to say that the reason why I don't want to sell is because I don't want to be spammy or sleazy. But really, I would love to learn how to sell in a way that feels authentic and good. That's an invalid fear. Being uncomfortable around sales and not knowing what to say or how to do it in a way that feels good can create fears, but those fears aren't valid in the sense that they can be solved. They can be fixed, right? It's valid to not want to be a pushy asshole, but if you're resisting sales because you don't know what to say and the whole thing makes you uncomfortable, that's an area that you need to grow in. So what I want you to do is, as you look at this, I want you to kind of say, okay, where would I be? Am I a very pushy person? Or am I more like, I'm not really sure I have the skills. I don't really know what to do. And because I don't know what to do, I'm worried I'm going to come across like a jerk face. So rate yourself on this scale. And we're going to start with the valid fear first, right? You don't want to be a jerk that hard sells people. In no way, shape, or form would I ever want you to be pushy or sleazy or spammy. I genuinely don't believe those tactics work well, especially when you consider your long-term reputation in an industry. And I've been in business for almost 10 years. In 2023, it'll be 10 years. And never once have I ever felt sleazy, spammy, icky, or gross. And yet I've made millions of dollars and everyone won. Everyone felt good. Not just me, the buyers also felt amazing. It feels amazing to invest when working with Maria. There's one thing I did. I created products and offers that I 1000% believed in, and then I sold them for infinitely less than what I thought they were worth. That's my secret. When you believe in your products that much, when you're passionate about them, and that passion is contagious, other people start to believe in this as much as you do, and then you don't have to pressure anyone into anything. And the other thing that I did is I honestly gave a shit about my customers' problems. I naturally tended to be a helpful person, but not helpful in the way you might think, where it's like, oh, I'm so kind and I'm so nice. No, I was helpful by solving very specific problems for my customers and then calling them onto a bigger vision for their future. I not only helped them with very specific things like getting more clients in a faster time frame, but I helped them say, hey, you should be working towards becoming a 7-figure earner. I want you to join the ranks of the women who are making millions of dollars in their business. When you see your students thriving and literally having better lives because of the work you do, it's very easy to sign more people up because you see that it's helping people. So that is how you need to handle the legitimate fear of being a sleazy salesperson. It's literally, to read it for a third time, create products and offers that you 1000% believe in and sell them for infinitely less than you believe they're worth. That's easy. Most of you are naturally not sleazy people. I know my audience. I know you guys watching this video. Most of you are on the other end of the spectrum and you struggle to ask for the sale in the first place. You don't know how to sell in a way that feels good. And that's okay. We aren't born. We don't come out of the womb knowing how to sell. It's a learned skill. And for most of you, what's probably happening is it's probably coming from a place of not knowing what to say. And so there's two fears that can come from that. When you don't know what to say, there's the fear around what you might think of yourself. So subconsciously, some of you basically what's happening is you're trying to protect yourself because it can feel very unsafe to put yourself out there and risk rejection. So you have fear of what you think of yourself and that can hold you back. And then there's the second fear, which is fear of what others think about you. For example, it might not feel safe to say, pitch to your Instagram stories because you're worried about what your friends will think. Or you might fear judgment or negative comments or hateful comments or people unfollowing you or even friendships ending. So there's two fears. One is the fear of what you think of yourself, and the other is the fear of what others think of you. And so a lot of this funny business around sales, a lot of this resistance and hesitation and like, sales are so overwhelming, I'm just going to put it over here and say, I don't want to be sleazy, therefore that's why I'm bad at sales, which is not true. And so as I was working on this video, I actually wanted to get an official definition of fear. So I Googled, what is the definition of fear? And I loved the first one that came up. I'm just going to read it to you. Fear is a natural, powerful, and primitive human emotion, an unpleasant feeling triggered by the perception of danger, real or imagined. So fear is a natural, powerful, primitive human emotion, and it's an unpleasant feeling triggered by the perception of danger, real or imagined. And so these two things that I took away from that right away that I love. Number one, knowing that A, fear is a normal human emotion. It's normal to feel scared around sales. And B, it's around imagined danger helps a lot. It helps us put words to the resistance that we feel around sales. So it's our own subconscious way of keeping us safe. The next question is okay, now I know where my fears are coming from. This is super helpful and super clarifying, but how do we handle this fear around sales? So there's 3 ways to get more comfortable around sales. Number 1, throw yourself in the deep end. Number 2, do inner work to remove the block. Or number 3, ease into it gradually and slowly. And I've got pros and cons for each. So if you're going to throw yourself in the deep end, this is how I do things. I had so many sales calls, I just wasn't afraid anymore. And so at one point I was doing 100 sales calls in a 30-day period for an average of 3 sales calls a day. Let me tell you, you get really good at doing anything 100 times in a month. And so it got to the point where I can literally hop on the phone and talk to anyone about anything and not be worried at all. I have no fears at all when it comes to pitching or selling or really any unknown. I can go into any situation and be comfortable and not feel that fear because of my experience doing 100 sales calls in a 30-day period, months in a row. For a year, I did 100 sales calls a month. So that means I did 1,200 sales calls in a year. Pros and cons, though, of throwing yourself in the deep end. Pros, you get really fast results. You get so good at sales really quickly. 2, you get a lot of confidence quickly. 3, you collect a lot of feedback and data quickly. 4, you become impossible to be rattled. It's just my confidence is rock solid at this point. So those are the pros. Cons, it's scary AF. It is terrifying. There's no way around it. The other con is that there's a lot of rejection up front. So it's imagine there's duct tape over your mouth. It's you rip it off, but skin of your lips is also coming off. That's a good analogy. So that's throwing yourself in the deep end. That's what I did. And it worked really well for me, but it's a person-to-person thing. Second way is to do the inner work and remove the block and fear. So any way you spin it, that fear block has to go. You can sort of brute force it out of the way I did, where I did 100 sales calls in 1 month, or you can actually treat the root of the issue. So asking yourself questions like, why do I have these fears? And what is the source of my need to never be rejected? Really try to understand and put words to that fear can be very powerful. This is very healthy and highly recommended. And I've cleared other money blocks doing this inner work. And I can attest to how powerful it is. I cleared 1 money block doing it this way. And I added an additional $125,000. It was a good month. Pros of clearing your money block like this is it's an extremely healthy and life-altering practice. And removing this block in one area usually removes it in other areas, is what I noticed. So it's just healthy. Cons, there's 2 cons. Often you can need a mentor or a mindset coach to help you see the block. Your blocks can be a blind spot. And then the other con is it's a lifelong process. And it can take some time to really clear the block, and it can come back in another form. So this is something that I think you should do. Third and finally, you can ease into this slowly and gradually. And this can work really well for some kind of people. It's the difference between jumping off the deep end, which is what I did with 100 sales calls in a 30-day period, and using the shallow end to kind of ease in. If you do decide to do this way, you use this method to remove your fear around sales, you must commit to little baby steps on a consistent basis. You've got to be consistent. This way doesn't work. If you don't do that, you're going to get stuck in the shallow end, right? So if you're not measuring and seeing progress, if you're not celebrating your small wins, you're going to get stuck in that shallow end of the pool. Some pros and cons of doing it this way. Pros are it's fairly easy on the emotions, fairly sustainable as well. and there's plenty of time to process and deal with any rejection that comes up. Cons are it is slow to see progress and it requires consistency, which many struggle with. So you've got some options. So if you might be wondering, what am I supposed to say on these sales calls? Or how am I supposed to book? I'm like, I want to dive in the deep end. I want to book more sales calls. How do I book them? So I've got you covered. I've actually created the ultimate business sales scripts and templates vault. And in this kit, I'm going to share with you all my heart-centered, very no pressure, feel-good sales scripts that I've used to close literally millions of dollars in sales now over the years. Plus, when you buy this little kit and get all these scripts, I'm actually going to give you a course that shows you how to use them to land more clients and make more sales. You can click on the link in the description to grab it. It's super inexpensive and I highly recommend it. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. I've got really, really good scripts that feel good for everybody. Again, like I said, I've never felt sleazy or spammy. So just click the link in the description to grab that little kit if you're wondering what you're supposed to be saying when you're on these. If you liked this video, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe. I make tons of videos on growing your online business, making money online. My mission is to help more women make money, make millions. I want a bunch of ladies making millions. So hit that subscribe button if you're part of that movement, and I'll see you in the next video.